Right, how to prune, the 5Ds method. First one, dead. Sorry, had to start there. But it's remove all dead branches or stems. Now, how on earth do you identify a dead branch? So I've got a plant here, which is a blueberry that I have yet to plant. And I hope you can see here, it's all got lovely green growth. And then here, there's like a wizened old brown little stick. And that is dead, basically. I can see there. What I think has probably happened is it probably got pruned and then it's just died back. So all you do is you take your secateurs and you just snip it off like this. Okay, so I've snipped it just there. There's another quite healthy offshoot there that I want to keep growing. So I've snipped it just above the join there. So that is all you do for the first D. You go round the plant, you look for any dead branches and you just snip them off, because they are just going to be draining energy from the plant that the plant needs to grow. Okay. The next one then is diseased. Now I'm going to switch plants very quickly. Not always that obvious when you've got disease in a plant. Again, if you're unsure, snap a pic, send it to me. But this is, if you've got any roses growing, and you might discover some, Vicky, this on here, I don't know if you can see these little black kind of almost like little lines they look like. This is black spot, and it's a fungus that grows on roses, and it basically will spread and it will kill the plant. So we need to prune that off. I've already got spiked by my rose. So all we would do with that one is we would look on the plant, as I did this morning, right down to where there's healthy growth. So just below this, there was a healthy leaf coming off that had no black spot on whatsoever. And I've just pruned above, and I'm going to compost this. Now, this is really key. If you home compost, do not put it on your home compost. This needs to go in the council green bin and it needs to get burnt. If you don't have a council green bin, make yourself a little bonfire and set fire to it. It's very liberating, because this will spread. Okay. And it will, if you put it in your homegrown compost and then you put that homegrown compost onto your beds, it will then reinfect other roses. Okay. So we really need to get rid of this one. It's a nasty one. So oh, you've got loads of bulbs. Lovely. Oh my God, I love bulbs. Louisa says we've got so much black spot on our roses, sadly. Yeah, it's a killer. And if there's a lot of rain, it spreads even more. So this is actually a bit of a constant one with the black spot. So generally we prune the roses around Valentine's Day. Really easy way to remember when you prune roses. You don't give them for Valentine's, you prune them at Valentine's if you want lovely flowers. But you can keep an eye on the black spot all year round and just snip off any bits that are that are showing signs of disease, because you really don't want it spreading. What does Vicky say? That's a nice therapeutic thing to do, burning stuff. Yeah, very therapeutic. Throw all of that negative energy and whatever else is in your head onto that, just set on fire. Then the next D is disinfect. So this is where you need your bucket of soapy water and your sponge. You open your secateurs that you've used to chop the dead and diseased, you dunk it in, just use something like a scourer, give it a good old scrub around. And then next thing, because you always want dry tools, is you just use a cloth, a clean dry cloth, and you just clean it off, and then you're ready to get on with the next stage, which is drink. And yes, you're very welcome to have a glass of wine at this point, but in this sense, we mean making your tree look like, if you're pruning a tree, the shape of a drink. And it's the same with plants as well, the roses definitely, is you want to remove crossing stems. So plants will just grow in whichever way they can, and they will generally grow towards the light, but what will happen is in the center of the plant you will end up with lots of kind of stems crossing around each other, especially if they're old plants that have been left to their own devices. And what that means is the air cannot flow around the plant, and that means that if there's a little bit of disease like the black spot on the roses, it can spread even easier, because they're all kind of in close proximity. There's no airflow to kind of keep everything nice and fresh. So what we want to do is we want to remove those crossing stems. You don't have to remove all of them, but definitely the majority, so there's no kind of like touching and whatever else. And what we're aiming for with the plant is we're aiming for a goblet shape, so you can imagine like a wine glass shape. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to leave the plant so it's growing up and out like that. And you can have, there will naturally be a couple of stems in the middle, but what we don't want is it up and then crossing inwards like that. So just always think like a, you know, wine glass shape is what you're aiming for. And then the last thing then is decrease, and that is the length of the stems of the plant. So I'm going to show you in a sec. My apple tree has got some crossing stems because that's just what happens in nature, but also it's growing out of the border, and I park my car right next to it, and it's getting to the stage where my car's going to start getting scratched. So I really need to decrease the length of the plant stems, and generally we would do that by about a third to a half. Okay, again, very dependent on how overgrown your plant is, and if it is really overgrown, you might need to do it a little bit more. What I would suggest though, because we don't want to strip the plant completely because the plant might go into meltdown, I would suggest a staged approach. So the first year you prune, you reduce the stems by a third. Okay, that might still be too big for how you want it. The next year you prune, you reduce again by another third, and you just slowly do it in that stage. Because if you just like whack, you know, most of the branch off, the tree's just going to go, holy shit, what am I doing, the tree or plant? And it's going to send up loads of what they call suckers, which are directly from the root, and they're growing because the plant thinks I'm going to die. Okay, because by pruning the plant, you're stressing the plant. So we want to do it in a gentle way that doesn't freak the plant out, because really we really don't want those suckers growing up. I'm going to